person and everything, and you need to do in terms of your water collection and everything. You have to take care of that. So just want to remind you of these things. We just want to remind our disaster management committees around Dominica, village councils, to ensure that our hurricane shelters are in order as we begin the hurricane season. Let me just take the opportunity and be here for the leadership of our party, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, who is our political leader, or deputy political leader, Mr. Clement Masley, our president, Mr. Lennox Linton, and our deputy vice president, Mrs. Francisca Joseph, to welcome you and also to extend sympathies to the families of a few people who have passed on. We want to extend sympathies to Hayden Francis in the River Civic area, will be laid to rest on Saturday, 2:30 p.m. at the Mount John Catholic Church. Mr. Telemac Allen of La Plaine will be laid to rest tomorrow at the La Plaine Catholic Church. We just want to extend sympathies. Also, I would like to extend sympathies to the family of Fernell Benjamin of Portsmouth, Chance Portsmouth, who passed away, was murdered, gruesome murder in Portsmouth. We want to extend sympathies to her family and immediate friends and the Portsmouth community. We also want to extend sympathies to the family of Bernard of Campbell, who died after a gunshot allegedly that happened in Granby during Fete Isidore. I just want to extend sympathies to the people on both sides. Nobody want that type of thing to happen. Also, I know Bernard's father very well. Miller Bernard was a farmer. He's a farmer, but I knew him from that time in the banana industries from Campbell. But he spent more time in the Bells area with area. So I just want to extend sympathies to the Bernard family of Campbell and Bells on the unfortunate passing of Bernard. And also we just want to extend sympathies to Shaquille Daru, school child of ITSS, who died in a traffic accident this afternoon in Salisbury on the Edward Oliver Main Road. I don't call it a highway, Main Road. And a very unfortunate situation. And before I welcome my guest in studios with me, I just want to say something about it, because earlier on, while I was there on the scene, let me first say that I know Shaquille very well. Shaquille, as a baby, his parents, they were renting a house maybe 50 feet away from me. So the child was always at my home. So I knew Shaquille from a baby. And unfortunately, what happened. Interestingly, he and the student from ITSS was knocked down by a teacher from PSS. But the teacher and the student, they are both tied to one family in Salisbury, the Langley family, have family on both sides. So it's a very troubling situation, somber situation in the community. Everybody does really it's like an old breeze passing through, and everybody does, the place is just dead. So we just want to continue to extend sympathies to the family. His great-grandmother is in Dominica right now, Isaline Philogent. We just want to extend sympathies to your entire family. His mom is and the father from the Kalinago territory, but they were in Salisbury. They have links up there. So all the people in Kalinago territory, Heidi family, all the families of Heidi Benjamin in Kalinago territory, sympathies to you. But also something happened while we were there, and I just need to bring out to public space that while we were standing there, we heard the siren. 2 state vehicles was passing through. The guys had to open the gate. The child is on the road. Police doing their work, so everybody expected there's a diversion into the village. Both vehicles passed high speed. Siren. I thought it was scary. Everybody thought it was the Prime Minister. But about 5 minutes later, the police officer confirmed to us it was the president. So I made a call of live about the Prime Minister. Soon after, Steve Vidal of Kyrie FM was there. He interviewed me. I told him that I heard it was, I said the Prime Minister, but it was not the Prime Minister, and I apologize for that. Mr. Leaks was there as well, but the Prime Minister released a statement about me, but he never made mention of the two state vehicles that passed. And it even worse for the president to pass there. A child who is a child of the state is a student in his school uniform, his sports uniform. He had his red top and his blue pants, and a teacher. And it's a somber situation, and no sympathy, nothing to say there. And also say because solidarity with the parents, nothing. They drove through at high speed. And everybody, the community, everybody was taken aback. Nobody took it as politics, as people saying as the state vehicle passing through. At least stop. At least bring down your window and empathize. Just pass through, and you could pass. There's a diversion. You can pass in the police station road and end up in the area and go out. And I just want to bring the two members. It was first not to talk about the accident. I move on from that, but let's talk about before we go into the meet our discussion about road security, ensuring that we have proper signage, speed bumps, pedestrian crossings, these type of things to ensure that and maybe the training for our bus drivers. And I think he was coming from a bus and he passed at the back of the bus. So all this discussion here, and I mean that is a discussion here, and it's late. But I'm just saying generally, there are some things that we need to address in terms of traffic and policing and everything. And so let me welcome to Q95, no stranger from the Roseau North constituency, Mr. Danny Luge, to the microphones as well. Good evening. And also from the Laplin constituency, our Vice President, Mrs. Francisca Joseph. Welcome.
Thank you.
Any one of you can go ahead. I just introduce you all right away.
Okay. Good night to all. Good night. Thank you, Hector and Danny, who is here this evening. I want to say a pleasant good night to the people of Dominica. And already we have sent condolences to all those who are bereaved at this time. It's a somber situation all around, even if you're not from the community, but you're Dominican and you feel the pain of parents on both sides, both the victims and those who may unfortunately caused the accident. It is very sad for your child to go to school and then cannot come back home, and I don't want to, those of us who have lost maybe children, not at that level, but you still feel the pain of the death of your loved one. So we've had a series for the past few weeks, a series of accidents, and we are calling on our drivers, pedestrians as well. And only this morning, I was driving, I was on a bus, and I was saying, you know what, we need to respect the pedestrian crossings because it's there for a reason. Mm-hmm. While the pedestrians themselves have to respect, the drivers themselves have to respect the pedestrians when they stand on the pedestrian crossings. And I always tell the parents, when you have a child with you, leave the child out of the traffic way, because some parents have their children facing the traffic, and then when something passes, they pull them out. But the child is an innocent; they don't know. You, as the adult, need to protect the child from that. And we have to be very careful. There are lots more vehicles on the road than before, and we have to be very careful. People go at extreme speed sometimes, not respecting, the traffic signs. And we have just to be double careful that it's a small country. We don't need anybody to die, really. One death is too many, to count. And I want to just call on us. And as we said, we're beginning the hurricane season and very big on disaster management. And I just hope and pray that people remain safe. I am not sure that I can say that we are in a better position before Maria than we are now. We were supposed to have built to withstand or build resiliency with our housing stock. I am not sure that is done. While we build those houses, we can see the state of some of the houses, but our people themselves have to be resilient as well, to know what to do in certain situations, how to conduct yourself in the event of an adverse event, certain magnitude, and not just those hurricanes, but we prepare for all manner of disasters, earthquake, Look, now we're looking at a lot of rain. It has been very, very hot and dry lately. So you know what happens when it rains. So we have to be on guard. We have to prepare and ensure that your safety and those of your neighbors come first. So we hope tonight that the discussion will be many-fold, not two-fold. And we'll discuss a lot of stuff. We have our activity that we need to look at as well. And I want to tell the people of the Lapland constituency a pleasant good night to all of you and to all those who turned out at the activity yesterday. I want to say thank you to you. I hope Philip is doing much better. I hope he wasn't too well on that day. So I hope he's much better, and the people will continue the fight, stand up the struggle, be safe, be secure, and stand up. Don't worry if all the talk you hear, that's just talk. That gives you the impetus to stand up again and be strong, So thank you for listening, and I hope you join us in the conversation tonight.
Yes, Mr. Luge.
Good evening to all listeners, whatever medium, radio, internet, whether you're at home or in the diaspora. Let me say good evening to you. I want to join my colleagues in extending sympathies to the families who've lost that young boy. When I saw some of the videos, I couldn't. When I get videos like that, I don't forward it.
We have to talk about that as well.
I don't forward it. It was sad to see a young man on the road, and I saw another video, I think, of his dad. He was crouched on the road. I can imagine the agony.
Yeah.
It's not normal for the child to go before the parent. So yes, we stand in solidarity with both families, and wish that in time, you'll recover from this tough experience. And as you mentioned, the whole question of traffic, sometimes you think about the whole management of our police force and allocation of resources. It is crystal clear to me that we have a problem of how we allocate resources in the police force. Let me just give an example. In the area of KFC, on a regular basis, you have backup of traffic. I see 1 and 2 and 3 vehicles packed on that last bridge there. Is it the China Friendship Bridge it's called?
Yeah.
I mean, how could that be? If you have policemen on motorcycles, they should be policing the high traffic areas, like, for example, by schools, the pedestrian crosses at every school should be policed. That's what our policemen should be doing on a Wednesday. You have so many police officers assigned to monitor Wednesday workers who have been working for about 60 weeks, and no hint of violence, no hint of any illegal activity by the workers, and yet so much police officers are assigned to follow and monitor peaceful Wednesday workers. And important things like high traffic areas, vehicles parking on bridges. I mean, that never happened before. And there's not one policeman in sight to direct the traffic. Like, for example, by KFC, we have a problem there. Like, on peak areas, there's always a backup of traffic. And sometimes, apart from the KFC driving, you have vehicles parking on the left side. I mean, come on. Have some police officers assigned to the area to clear up the traffic. And really, 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 I think the management of the police force need to look closely at, using the number of policemen that we have wisely to help curb the number of traffic accidents and other serious crimes.
Yeah, man. Let me just
is the resources of the waste of resources again. See what happened on for Wednesday. You call out all police officers plus reinforcements, whatever the reinforcements are, but I know reinforcements comes from outside. Whatever the reinforcements were, you call all police and you will give them all resources they require. For what? For peace-loving Dominican, born and bred Dominicans who are just peacefully speaking out for their right. Now, this is a waste of resources. This is
Yeah.
a lot of waste
But-
that you could use for what Dan is talking about. Redirecting resources in the appropriate area to deal with. Again, planning is important. When you plan, you allocate resources to a requisite area where it will be of most use.
Yeah. And that point brings me to some areas when Daniel was making this point in terms of pedestrian crossing, speed bumps, sidewalks, signage. For example, in that area right now, in the Grand Savannah area, is a fast-growing community. And Salisbury have 3 arteries. The main one by the Lavish area where people go only up. One in my area, in the middle, coming from the Church Lane. We have had several accidents with them there, about 5 dying right there. And then this one by the police station, where the young guy died today. Shakil died today. We have no markings. We only have a pedestrian crossing, maybe if I'm not mistaken, they may have put it back down there on the Lavish. And I've asked for markings for the past maybe 8 years, asking for markings. I went to the police, I wrote them, I went to traffic, they sent me back to St. Josie, they sent me back to Salisbury. And they start using excuses that we have to buy the paint and whatnot, just to put proper markings in the area. Kulibistri, by the Catholic Church.
Yes,
that's another highway. You have people going to church sometimes and they park their vehicles on the other side of the street. They have to cross, elderly have to cross. You have no speed bumps, no pedestrian crossings. I'm not saying that you have to put everything everywhere, but you have to look at area the dangers. You have got to wait for something to happen. We are too reactive in the country. And that area, that is another main artery out of the village. They should have a pedestrian crossing. The young man had to wait and see what happened for him to cross the road. The bus, I'm hearing that the bus left. Nobody never looked back or whatever happened, or he didn't hear what happened. And the child on the street, on the road right there. And I'm saying the president, I have to come back to that. The president of the country is passing. Not even acknowledging a school child.
But Hector, I'm asking is because when we talk about that, we come to the rule of law.
Yeah.
Which is for every one of us. If traffic is diverted, it is not an emergency. Right. It's not the ambulance, it's not fire, it's not anything. Yeah. The traffic has been diverted. That is the reason why the traffic was diverted, to deal with the situation, the crime scene there at the moment. So whether you're president, the prime minister, whoever you're, the priest, the lawyer, whoever you are, this law is for a diversion, is for you too, unless there is a situation of real emergency and we know the emergency vehicles, right? I mean, come on. No one of us, not one of us in Dominica is above the law. Even if people pretend that they are above the law and we condone those things and we go out of our way to accommodate them, they know that they should not be accommodated. But then because they have that kind of authority they think they have above the workers of this country, that people tend to be afraid that if I waylay the president, if I tell him that he has to die, but then maybe my job would be at stake or something would happen. And this is not a situation, this is not a life to live in a country that is supposed to be a democratic country. Right? And this is what we've been crying for all along, is the rule of law, that justice is meted out to everybody, no matter who the person is.
And let me just say two more things quickly. It took the police CID over 2 hours to get to the scene of the accident. Over 2 hours. So the child in that state on the road, where everybody just want to see at least him being moved on the road and taken to the his father is just screaming at everybody there watching. And it took them over 2 hours to get there in Dominica, to get to the scene. And also, Danny made a very important point. We have to call on our citizens to be more
circumspect, be more,
in terms of
put yourself in empathetic.
Yes. For you to be taking these videos and sending them out there, man. It was. I never looked at it,
No, I tell people just, what to do. Put yourself in my shoes. Put yourself in the parents' shoes that crying their head out, their eyes out. That my child and maybe family somewhere don't even know what is happening. I mean, I have erased a lot of just
imagine I got when I came there, he was on a white sheet, and then I saw somebody send the thing to me. I didn't look at it. But I got an instant headache when the state vehicle passed him on the floor, right, and just passed through like nothing, like it's a an animal on the street. That does give me an instant headache. I have never seen that before. I mean, head of state not being sympathetic or empathetic or whatever, showing no empathy, showing no even trying to go to the father and say, let me show to the community, or bring down your glass and say, okay, I understand what happened there and I sympathize with you, and go through nothing. Just pass the like bring us full speed, and that to me really everybody that was standing there forgot about the accident. They said, how can you do that? It's just heartless, but it happens like that sometimes, and you move on, but you learn from these experiences. I can never do that. I would never do that to anybody. Anyway, I passed to see somebody with a flat, I was so long and say, you okay? Yeah. Even though it's in the late in the night, I would not stop close by it. You never know what happened. But you ask the person if they're doing okay, if they want to make a call or something.
And Hector, that is, being your brother's keeper.
Yeah.
And basically, that's basic what it has been for years for everybody. Being each other's keeper.
Yeah.
That we know at a date on what is happening with my neighbor, what is happening around the area, to give her help when we can. And this is how we live as citizens of a country. If we cannot unite and come together for this, for these and other things, that my neighbor is not well, my friend is hungry, they have nothing to eat, children are hungry, that I can assist in any way possible. And this is the Dominica that I knew, that I raised in. That it is the communities that we raised in, that we knew that you look at your neighbor's house and you didn't see smoke, so you know something not good. And then you help in any way possible.
Yep. Well, let's take this call. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Workers' Voice.
Good evening, Scott. Good evening.
Good evening.
And good evening to my brother Danny and sister Ziska.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Sprack, listen to this, right? That's a serious issue, in terms of a child coming from school and trying to get home and out of the his bus or whatever transport he's getting killed. That is not no small matter. That's not no simple issue, Sprack. Number one, sometimes ago I heard the Prime Minister talk about he trying to bring the traffic system or road system to international standard. You remember that statement? I don't know if you remember.
Right.
But I hear him mention something like that. Now, any vehicle that is dropping off students from school should have the four-way on. And I'm not talking about the amber, the yellow. I'm talking about that red flashing light. When you see a bus stop with that red flashing light, no traffic cannot proceed. The oncoming traffic has to stop, and those traffic behind of them, they cannot overtake. They have the right of way is always for the pedestrian, and in this case, a school child. Now, Lavigi, a lot of people already die. Since I know people die in Lavigi. And we doesn't learn from our mistakes. You see me, I make a lot of mistakes in my life. But I try to learn for me to do better, even though I don't never do good. But my intention is always to try to learn, because when you get something wrong, you get it wrong, that doesn't work. You have to come with something else. And that's a serious issue, because Lavigi, a lot of people lose their life there.
Yeah, it didn't happen at Lavish. It happened by Police Station Road.
On that same highway.
Yeah.
Go by the police station road. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What I'm saying, the principle, the laws have to be in place. You cannot see a bus, student or children coming from a bus, and you're passing on the high speed. That doesn't make sense. That guy drive and not developed country, no aspiring developed country cannot afford. You cannot maintain those kind of stuff. In 2023, my brother, people's life is important. Life, no money cannot buy life. That little boy that done that, I don't know. Sibo asked me if I know him. I know from Salisbury, so it's my business. Anything talk about Salisbury is my business.
All right.
I will always talk.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But you have to look into it, man. And the next thing again, they didn't even cover the boy with a sheet. I said that there's a video going around with the boy lying on the ground with a pool of blood. They wouldn't even cover the body with a sheet until the police and all.
Yeah, they covered him after a while. Yeah. But we will talk, everything. We'll just start in the program, so I just taking your call. All right, we'll talk a bit later. All right?
All right, cool. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, take care, my brother. All right. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. Go ahead.
The Prime Minister and saying about traffic. I saw somebody, I just want to pick a little snippet of somebody's post, and it so spoke to me on Facebook. If the minister doing the admin work, who is doing governance? and I looked at this statement and I said, it really is true. Because all these, we're talking about, I will do this and I will take care of this and I will ensure that you cannot ensure nothing. Right? Because this is admin work. You have the people who are set aside. And I don't know. That's my bane with the public service. And I don't know. I came from the public service and I stood up to whoever it was. This is my job to do. You are in no position to tell me my job. Your job is something else. Yeah. And you're not the one paying my salary. So we have to take charge of those things. Unless we do that.
Kaikul Kwazi.
Yep.
Good evening. Let me just tell you that you listen to the Workers' Voice here on Q95. In the house with me, as I said, Mr. Danny Luge, Mrs. Francisca Joseph, but also join us is our president from the Margaret constituency, Mr. Lennox Linton. Mr. Linton, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. John. How are you?
Keeping fine.
Mr. Luge, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Madam Joseph, are you good?
Nice woman power.
Rosie give you a little inspiration yesterday.
Yep.
Okay. My condolences to the families. This is sad, like every time a tragedy of this nature hits us, we reflect on the necessity to be careful on the road and to remember that lives matter, and the road is a public space, and we owe it to each other to be careful. And we have spoken in the past about, drinking and driving and all that stuff. I don't know that was an issue today, but that's a matter. No. That is something that we have to talk about and remind people of in circumstances like this, because the accidents on the road, a lot of them are caused by people who are in an altered state of consciousness, triggered by drugs or by alcohol. There are other accidents where people are perfectly normal and they're just speeding. The vehicle went out of control. We just need to do everything we can to keep it really safe on the roads, so then we protect life, because nothing we do is worth dying over on the road. And opportunities like this, incidents like this, are just moments for reflection and committing ourselves that, if necessary, we have to drive for other people on the road. We have to be defensive as drivers, and just watch out for the lives that could be affected by how we drive on the road.
Thank you, Mr. Linton. It's just
but it's a sad time for the people of Bowie and people of Salisbury, and my heart is really with them tonight. Thoughts and prayers.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Linton. I know they're listening. The entire community really appreciate the support, because we're getting a lot of calls, and people we waited in the hot sun until they took the body from the road. So people are really supportive, and going forward, we do not know how else we will take it, but we just have to create a support structure system around him. As the father, he was the father and mother of the son. He had a child about 3 years,
Single
parent, and that child had been living with him in Salisbury for all that time, So I just want to reach out to him and his family.
And painful to the other party as well.
Yeah,
It's really painful.
Everybody, the entire community, both sides, and as I said, they connected to one family, another family in the community on both sides.
See, no family wants to lose a child in those circumstances. No family wants to be the cause of a child being lost in those circumstances. So it's, It's really tough.
Yeah. Okay, let me welcome you again to the Workers' Voice in studios with Miss Lennox Linton, our president, our vice president, also there, Mrs. Francisco Joseph, and from the Rosa North, the man with all the power. Yesterday, I don't know, he was on how many cylinders you had. They said people having 6 cylinders, but you had maybe 14 cylinders. So let me welcome you to the Workers' Voice. Remember, we have our car raffle ticket sales going on. The car will be raffled next week, next month. Just a few more weeks, you have to purchase your tickets, $5. Our office is on 6 River Street, and we're having the raffle. I'm not too sure if it's on tomorrow.
Tomorrow we are on.
We are on tomorrow from 8.
Prevo Cinema.
Yeah, from 8.
Yeah.
Until, all right. So we'll be there. So let me just welcome you. Yesterday we had an activity, an event organized by the Electoral Reform Coalition, and we were on the riverbank. And yesterday, interestingly, we had maybe a trough or something. Serious rain came down. I mean, they had a shower inside about 2:00. But when I saw videos of Roseau and other places being flooded, I was taken aback. The last day of May, we're not in the hurricane season as yet, a few more hours to go on, but we had a very successful activity yesterday, and we're going to speak about it, electoral reform. If we heard, some of us heard the poem. If we do not get it, we will take it. And I think that was resonated with everybody. So I just want you to welcome Mr. Lugie. I think he'd like to give the opening salvo. So Mr. Lugie, go right ahead.
You know, as you mentioned the trough yesterday, because a lot of people didn't realize behind the scenes we were battling as to whether, Mr. Linton as president, he had to be calling the weatherman. We had to look at satellites, Quadloop Dominica, to see, because we were very concerned about putting the lives of persons traveling from the old districts into town. Safety issues was very big. I got this evening on my phone. A big El Nino is looming. Here's what it means for weather. How warm water in the Pacific shapes storms, droughts, and record heat around the world. So I'll be sharing that. I've already shared it with a few, but this hurricane season, today is the 1st of June. It's the beginning of the hurricane season, and Honorable John mentioned that preparation should be, at its height. And, this El Nino effect will affect our hurricane season. It will affect, bushfires. It will affect crops. There'll be lots of losses of, I think in that article it mentions in Malaysia already, people losing a lot of crops. So it really, we need to pay attention to what's happening this hurricane season.
And I also saw there's a lot of flooding taking place in the Caribbean.
That's correct.
North of the Caribbean, Cuba, Haiti, Cayman Islands, and some of the other islands up there have flooding. Over yesterday, Jamaica, some parts of Jamaica as well.
Okay, but I will allow Francisca to talk about, the whole mechanics of the activity, big activity yesterday. But just to thank all the contributors, financially and otherwise, the planners, the organizers, the people on the ground, the persons who gave their $50, their $100, their $200, whether by PayPal, whether walk into the office. It takes a lot to organize such a big event. Some people ask, well, let's do it every week. We can't do it every week. It takes a lot of money. So I yield to Francisca as she gives us an idea of what it takes, to put on an event like that.
Okay, thank you. As Danny said, the thanks go to the people who attended. Had we had an activity and nobody came, then obviously that wouldn't be an activity. So, but we thank persons who braved the weather in wherever parts of Dominica they were. Some were very more intense than others. The rain was heavier in some areas, but people still turned out. Apart from just the buses who came in, we had persons who came in with their private vehicles. A number of people came, and they had people with them as well on their private vehicles. So people are eager and you could see the motivation, the crowd, and the enthusiasm, and that they had. And some of them are patriots. These are people who have been so long on the struggle, continue to stand, because at the end of the day, they realize, you know what, one day it will come. It takes a lot of organization to get it done. It's not just sitting and whatever. We have to collaborate, and we had a lot of collaboration with the other entities. We have we planning days are usually days that are spent organizing and maybe getting things going. And when you're planning and you're not sure that people will turn out.
Yeah.
And I sat down we stood up on the thing. Somebody told me my heart beating me. I said, relax yourself. All will be well. As soon you will see what will happen. And she told me, how did you do that? I say, I know that. I know, or people will turn out. And I'm always, it renews my faith in human. And sometimes when you feel despondent, because we do feel sometimes that, what, am I fighting a losing battle? Should I just leave it alone? But when you see these people and you see this crowd and people tell you, thank you for standing up and we're happy with what you're doing, you have no choice but to continue to stand.
The diversity of the crowd as well.
Yes, I mean, yes, we had a whole lot of people who turned out. We had public officers, we had so many people turned out and to assist. And when I saw the ambulance sit there waiting, and the police, the fire, we are very grateful. We are happy that it was a very, very peaceful, well, it always would have been peaceful. We never said that we were having any kind of war in the place, although it was announced that we were going to have war with all the people in fatigue, military fatigue, and all the rest of it, and drones flying in the air and everything running, and nobody bothered. Nobody bothered, because we knew what we were standing for, and the people knew what they were standing for. And we are happy that it went through, that the activity, to my own, and for many people, the activity was a success. People listened, and I want to big up, so to speak, my sister in the struggle, Rosie Felix, who gave a splendid performance yesterday. I mean, it resonated everywhere, and people are posting and reposting and commending her for standing, not being afraid, for just there as the person that it does not matter what you say or what you do, I will stand. And this is the stage we want our people to reach. At this stage, especially our public officers who've been suffering for so long, who really come and they tell you, boy, things are tight. How do you think it feels that a public officer works for 40 years in a service, you go home and your mortgage is maybe a quarter way paid? Then after 40 years in the service, you have to go and seek full-time employment somewhere to make ends meet. So they really get in the brunt. And then to compound that as well, they facilitating the process of people getting all the money.
Yeah.
They seeing it, they seeing the money. There was a young lady who told me she wanted to go to study. She was working in one of the ministries, and she's been asking and asking nothing. And the processing of the application goes through her, and she sees the amount of money that some people get and she can't get. Every time she saw that, she would fall ill. She gets a headache because the money, it just passes through her hand and she cannot say or do anything. So I'm happy that public officers turn out. We want them to turn out again in massive numbers again when we do call. And standing for electoral reform is a good thing. Because if we don't have the reform, if we do not have the rule of law, if we have no freedom, we have nothing. And this is what we've been asking. And I heard all the rhetoric and the running mouth and whatever. Put your money where your mouth is and give us the reform. It's fine. Let us do that, right? Let us you big. You realize you're big. Okay, fine. If you're so big, like they'll get you and will tell you, we're crossing, put in the line there, cross it. Yeah. Give us the reform. Let the best man or woman win, and let us see what happens. That's all we're asking for. It's not just for the United Workers' Party. It's for anybody, any opposing force going into politics, right? So why is it that in 2023, every time I go somewhere, I must present an ID?
Yeah.
I go to the bank, I have to have an ID. I go wherever and they tell me, sometimes they ask me for 2 or 3 IDs or whatever to make sure that you are the person.
But even to use a debit card in one of the supermarkets or things, some of them ask for ID.
Exactly. So what is so wrong in having an ID to vote, which is a secret ballot that you need to make sure that you can do? This is what I want freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of assembly. In England, nurses are striking and they don't care who it affects. Doctors are also striking. Because unless you stand up for what you want, unless you stand up for your right, the president in the house knows exactly what we're talking about when we talk about people standing up, right? And this is what was done yesterday, and I'm so thankful for all the people who turned out and all those who assisted in one way or another. We have our ladies, Onika worked really hard, Diane, you know. So we have a number of people. We had Evans who was there on the ladder, and Danny came in, and so in the pre-preparation phase, Bernie Ryan, you know, has been doing a tremendous job going all over the island, wrong the island. I mean, the energy I cannot do that. The energy that he has is super, you know, and still came in the morning, early morning, to organize for the wash up of the area, and we left the area cleaner than we got it. Okay, that is the kind of people that United Workers Party people are. That we take care of the environment, we take care of the country, and we stand up for the people of the country.
I was still standing there when the cleaners started sweeping, you know, cleaning the area. Yes. We were still there.
And these people are always eager to help us because we pay them as soon as they finish. We pay them. We're not quitting anybody. We're not telling anybody we'll pay them and we'll not pay them. Okay. In spite of the thing, God blesses us, and we always able to pay our bills, always. And this is a government in waiting. If we can pay your bill and we're not in government, how do you think what will happen when we get to government? Of course we'll pay you. Now for now.
No query.
Nothing like that.
Mr. Linton.
And all the money going back in the treasury.
The meeting yesterday was interesting because the attendance came with a high degree of difficulty. People were up against a lot of things to make up their mind and decide we are going to the meeting. Now, back up a bit. The forces that were fighting against the meeting, they know why people were going to be at the meeting, you know. Because they had a sham election in 2022, December, that 70% of the people of Dominica, 70% of the electorate boycotted. Right? That's over 30,000 people. Stayed away from the election, meaning they were queued in and committed to not having another election in Dominica without the reforms to fix the election process, to make it fit for the purpose of free and fair election of government of the people, by the people, for the people. So those who were fighting against the meeting knew that from that body of over 30,000 dissatisfied Dominicans who had issues with the 2022 sham elections, there was going to be a turnout because the people want the electoral reform and they want the process fixed. So what did they do? They went around the country paying young people to stay away from
$300 in envelopes
to stay away from the meeting. I cannot tell you how many people stayed away because of that, but people must have stayed away because of that. We had a challenging weather situation dealing with. It was a weak wave, tropical wave. What do you call it? A wave. But it was causing a lot of showers in the southeast, more particularly. In Roseau, drains had begun to flood. Did you see that? Didn't you see that? In Roseau, and there were many parts of the country where people felt it was they didn't feel comfortable or safe traveling. So they stayed home. We ourselves were concerned with the conditions. We met in emergency session yesterday afternoon at 2:45 to review the situation and to make a decision as to whether we tell people who are already on their way, turn back, we're not having it again, or whether we go ahead. At the end of the day, after having examined the situation closely and taking advice from the weather people, and you know, one of the weather people that we would consult with is our political leader, who is skilled, has competencies in those areas that are well known to the people of Dominica. And we decided that we could go ahead. And we went ahead. And there's a lot of satisfaction with yesterday. And on the other side, because this is a political event, the politics comes in, and the Labour Party people are talking and they are saying all sorts of things. But
Press conference on Thursday.
this is a press conference on Thursday.
We're making them work for the money.
So there's a press conference. First thing in June, there's a press conference. All right? There's a press conference. Listen to this.
Last night, the U.W.P leader, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, called for a voter ID card, and he also mentioned campaign finance reform as part of measures for electoral reform in Dominica. Where's the Prime Minister on these demands as far as it relates to electoral reform? And what is the very latest Prime Minister on electoral reform for Dominica?
Well, I mean, everybody knows, and the U.W.P knows that we're all waiting for the report from Sir Dennis Byron, and I know that they're in touch with Sir Dennis Byron.
He knows that we in the United Workers' Party are in touch with Sir Dennis Byron. Well, that shouldn't be a secret, because I wrote to Sir Dennis Byron as president of the United Workers' Party on the 18th of May. We shared that letter with the people of Dominica on this program. So we have been in touch with Sir Dennis Byron. But listen to this.
Prime Minister, last night the U.W.P leader, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, called for a voter ID card, and he also mentioned campaign finance reform as part of measures for electoral reform in Dominica. Where's the Prime Minister on these demands as far as it relates to electoral reform? And what is the very latest Prime Minister on electoral reform for Dominica?
Well, I mean, everybody knows, and the U.W.P knows that we're all waiting for the report from Sir Dennis Byron, and I know that they're in touch with Sir Dennis Byron, and I know that he's indicated to them that very soon he will submit the report. And what he's seeking to do is to create an unnecessary perception or situation in Dominica, to give people outside, because every Dominica knows, if people outside they're talking to, people outside they're talking to, but the people outside also know what's happening. And so the issue, we're waiting for Sir Dennis Byron's report. Once we receive the report, as we indicated, we'll make it available to the public. There'll be public consultation, and we will take it to the Parliament. And I want to have the matter dealt with in a swift and emphatic manner, so that there'll be no other issues that opposition elements in Dominica can use against myself and this government. And I would like to put this issue of electoral reform at the back of the country, so that we can focus all our energies on everything. So and by the turnout, you can see that the Dominican people are interested in what they're saying, because people know what's happening in Dominica.
By the turnout, you can see that Dominican people are not interested in what they're saying. Now, I was talking a while ago about the fight against the meeting.
Yeah.
You see where it is?
Mm-hmm.
Now, another thing that the meeting was up against, we spoke about the money that went around. We spoke about the weather conditions.
National security.
Let's speak about the security issue. Let's speak about the huge song and dance made by the National Security Minister, in my mind, the Minister of National Insecurity, who told the people of Dominica that things were going to happen, and they had to bring out all the resources to make sure the police could take care of business, and they were going to give the police reinforcements and so on. Basically scaring people away from the meeting. Now, ordinarily, there would be supporters of the Labour Party who would want to come to the meeting, and They're not going to be comfortable coming when the National Security Minister in the Labour Party government is suggesting that mayhem is going to take place, to the extent that they have to bring in all the resources, and they have to bring in reinforcement. Reinforcements mean the regional security system. And I don't know if people didn't get it, that the RSS was actually in Dominica yesterday to reinforce the police to look over that meeting.
They want to see, somebody's having on a boat out there.
The RSS was in Dominica. That's what Rayburn Blackmore said. Rayburn Blackmore was scared to say RSS because he knows the implications of that. But he did say it because reinforcement of the police in our circumstances where we have no army could only mean members of the regional outside security forces. System, outside forces, to come in and police a simple public meeting that they given the impression they felt was not going to have people. So if you know it wasn't going to have people, why are you wasting the time and resources of people from the outside? It is because you know what was going to happen that you had to fight so hard against it. And you fought against it with money. You fought against it with the state power of security and talking up the event as though mayhem was going to start to happen in Dominica, which was nothing at all of the sort. And of course, the weather played a role as well. Notwithstanding that, we had the event. But consider this. A prime minister is talking about a crowd, and the crowd indicative of people in Dominica not bothered about them. Over 30,000 people in Dominica boycotted the sham election of 2022, and you had no problem emerging as prime minister from that sham election, but you worried about a few thousand people in Roseau for a public meeting, what that says about whether Dominicans are listening to the United Workers' Party or not. Let me say it tonight again. It was wonderful getting together with all the people of Dominica from different walks of life, from all parts of the country, to focus on the necessity for demanding electoral reform to fix our system of elections in Dominica. And we were clear last night. This thing cannot just be allowed to drag on and on and on and on and on. The time has come for us to have the report of Dennis Byron. The time has come for the report to go to the people of Dominica in consultations. And the time has come for the recommendations that have been reduced to amendments to the legislation. Those amendments to go before the parliament so we enact new election laws to give effect to the reform. The consultant has already said to the government that his report is in two phases. Phase one, recommendations for amending the Registration of Electors Act, which deals with the ID cards for voting, which deals with cleaning the voters list, essentially. And phase two, which is the House of Assembly Elections Act, amendments to that piece of legislation that will bring on board campaign finance reform. It will bring on board access to media provisions, and it will look at the election offenses like bribery and cheating to bring greater clarity to certain provisions that have caused us concern in recent years with the bribery and treating of overseas voters, more particularly, the paying of airline tickets and so on to come home to Dominica to vote and then to go back the following day. The system has to be protected from that kind of abuse, because when the laws went into effect, they spoke specifically of bribery and treating as election offenses. And the way this practice of the Labour Party has evolved in the last 3 or 4 election cycles They are trying to give you the impression that they have the right to bring in their voters from overseas because it is their voters and they can pay transportation expenses for them. We need clarification in the law that that is bribery and that is a criminal offense. So that's where we are. And now, let me say tonight, I have been reliably informed. Mr. Skerrit says in the press conference today that he knows that we've been in touch with Sir Dennis Byron, and Sir Dennis Byron has told us that the report is going to be presented soon. Sir Dennis Byron has said nothing of the kind to any of us. We have sent him a letter, and that letter, we have had no response to the letter. But the people of Dominica know the contents of the letter because we've shared it publicly. Okay? What our concerns are at this stage. So, contrary to what Mr. Skerrit says, no, we do not know. Mr. Byron has given us no indication that the report is going to be issued soon. I have nonetheless been reliably informed that Sir Dennis Byron has been trying to have a meeting with the Electoral Commission for the purpose of discussing with them and agreeing with them on the recommendations of his phase 2 report. And that meeting has not yet been scheduled. He's been trying for some weeks now to have that meeting with the commission. And the people on the commission that Roosevelt Skerrit and the Labour Party nominated to be on the commission seem to want to kick the meeting date further and further down the road as much as they can. The meeting could have been held since last month because the consultant had indicated he would like to have concluded those discussions before the end of the month. But here we are in June, and there's no meeting. The commission cannot yet agree on when they're going to meet Sir Byron. But the Prime Minister is on, because of his nominees, availability of his nominees on the commission. But the Prime Minister is on the radio giving the impression that he wants to get rid of this as quickly as possible. He wants to take care of business. The same Prime Minister who received the phase 1 report from Sir Dennis Byron on the 30th of November 2022. The 30th of November 2022 was 6 months and 2 days ago. 6 months and 2 days ago, he received the phase 1 report from Sir Dennis Byron. He has had no public consultation. Nothing has gone to the parliament. The process is stalled, and he's saying he is waiting for Sir Dennis Byron.
No, but he's been saying that for how long?
But listen to this. Sir Dennis Byron presented the phase 1 report with a recommendation that it be tabled, the amendments to the Registration of Electors Act be tabled in the Parliament in December and enacted in January of 2023. So that the work could commence on cleaning the list and issuing the ID cards for voting. And this man who claims he is more interested than anybody else in getting this done has allowed 6 months to go by on that report without doing anything at all. Now, Sir Dennis Byron has to present the second phase of his report. And we said last night, this report has to be presented by the 30th of June. We've waited long enough. So Dennis Byron started his work in September of 2020. We are coming up on 3 years. It is more than enough time for these recommendations to be presented, for us to go around and consult with the people, and to have the consultation influence what the final recommendations that are going to go for the changes in the legislation in the parliament. And we want all of that, including the enactment of the legislation, the new election laws, the the new Registration of Electors Act, the new House of Assembly Elections Act, no later than the 31st of August in 2023. That is the people's agenda, and that is what we will remain faithful to. And we're not going to sleep on this one, you know. The next 3 months are going to be months of tight focus on what our needs are and the conclusion of this electoral reform agenda, so that we can get ready and clear the way for elections in 2024. We cannot go further than 2024 with the results of the sham election of 2022. The people's business must be reset, not scarage reset. We want a reset, because already we've seen what the reset cabinet has done for us. We reset the cabinet to 23 ministers plus 3 other people operating at cabinet level, 26 in all, and it's not going well for us at all. It's not going well for us at all. So next 3 months, people, we keep our eyes closely on what's happening, and we will be letting you know where we're heading and what is going to happen. But it's going to be a busy 3-month period.
My question is, in the reset of his cabinet, you put in somebody responsible for election modernization, right? So is it above his pay grade to answer any questions that has to do with electoral reform? Because every question on electoral reform goes to you to answer, right? You do not give the person that you give the money that we pay in. I'm suppose you are paying him. He can be in a job and you're not paying him. He's responsible for election modernization. So my question to Mr. Darrow tonight is, when can we get a statement from you, since you are the one responsible for election modernization? What is going on with the modernization of the election? Because I listened to the response to Curtis Matthew, and I almost could not understand what he was saying, because it's kind of muddled and oh yes, and why are you so obsessed with the United Workers' Party? A little activity we have. So you're asking a question about electoral reform. Bam, you bring in a meeting that we had and the people didn't turn out, and you tried your best to see how you could deter the people from turning out. All sorts of you made it a national security issue, when at the same time we had persons who were lost, found not alive bodies, and you had the young man deaf. None of that was important in the whole issue of national security, but a public meeting very, very closely became a national activity, wasted money on resources to get it done. So what we are saying is, we will continue this struggle to continue to talk to our people, because it is important, because without election reform, we do not have a democracy. And that is basically what it is. We do not have a democracy. We need, because you cannot tell me on election day, well, with the sham election that you had, after your candidate voted, going to bribe people, showing them the indelible ink on your thumb and telling people, I voted, so took out money from my pocket, gave you $300. The candidate plus a man of the cloth, right? Paying people. This is a serious election offense, even in our Elections Act. You know, and this is just left just like that. How do we run a country so lawlessly by the top persons who are supposed to uphold the law?
You know, it cannot be business as usual for the next 3 months. You heard President Linton saying that the first phase of the report of Byron was presented. So clearly, that can be dealt with within the first 3 months, to cleanse the list and issue voter ID cards. Why is it that Prime Minister Skerrit is obsessed with not giving a voter ID card and is talking about a national ID cards? Haven't we got a social security card, a passport, a driver's license? Is on these national ID cards? Prime Minister Skerrit, we are asking for voter ID cards, and we are not asking for electoral modernization. We're asking for electoral reform.
Yeah, but don't let him pull you into these
Well, that's what I'm saying. No.
Listen to what I'm saying. An ID card is going to be issued. The important thing is that it has the voter registration information of the voter on the card.
Biometric.
It has biometrics in terms of fingerprints at least, and it has the picture of the person, right? They can call it what they want. What we need is a card that is tied into the voter registration system and will be used for the purpose of voting. Mandatory for the purpose of voting.
But also we have to ensure that the card serve who meet the requirement for voting. Because what are you trying to bring across, Mr. Linton?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, I'm with
Your
you.
voter registration number must be on the
No,
card.
but I'm saying, what Dan is saying as well, they might issue the card for a 2-year-old who doesn't meet the requirement for voting. And that is what he's trying to divert people into. So they can manipulate the system with the 16 and the 17-year-olds and give everybody, since you're Dominican national, you can have an ID card. And then that's what they're looking to do. So they can manipulate the system, and whoever comes with the card can just vote. That's what they're trying to do. And that's why we have to put down offer to ensure is a card for voting.
But what is he afraid of? What exactly are
he's
you
still, he's still in legacy. He's
because
still in
I'm
legacy.
listening to him and he's actually trembling. You know, he's actually making a statement that is incoherent.
Yeah.
You can barely understand what he's saying. Modeled all over the place, saying the same thing over and over. Every time he's asked this question, he says the same thing over and over. He's still waiting and he's still waiting, and he himself fed up. And you fed up of what? You already have a report. Work with it. Because things can happen simultaneously. You work with it, you clean your list. As you clean it, the second report is coming and to do what needs to be done.
But
if you have to go to Parliament 10 times for the year, because there are places, countries who go to Parliament 20-something times for the year.
But Mrs. Joseph, Skerrit was involved in stopping the process in 2008, you know. How all of a sudden he's frustrated. He stopped in 2009, 2008, 2009, 2014. 2017, 2014 we had Mayor Motley, 2013, Mayor Motley, and you had a report. 2019, yes, in August, September, we had the Commonwealth, the OAS, and right, it came down, right, and you took those reports and you threw it on the side. You went for your election. You had a sham, you called a sham election, December 2022. And all of a sudden you're fed up.
And you know, the classic thing is these are the same people who gave me report and giving me recommendations. He had something in Trinidad. Was it Trinidad or Guyana? Trinidad. When they had the conference, the crime.
That was in Trinidad.
Trinidad, right. Yes.
He is saying that, he has a discussion. These are the same people who gave me the recommendations. So now you're having a discussion with them as to the whole issue of the process of electoral reform. What are you talking about? These are the people who already have reform in their own countries.
Yeah.
Everybody here, their vote, everybody in that crime session where they were, I'm sure their countries have voter ID cards. What do you want to read out? You know, so you pay them money to give you a report, then you turn around and say, I don't know, it's so expensive, or that is a waste of time, or whatever. The only reason you don't want it to interfere with your legacy,
but even
re-election.
But even in 2013, they had a Commonwealth OECS initiative where they were trying to even give that's when they're talking about national ID card, and he even refused. He blocked it, you know. And now he's speaking about being fed up and frustrated and whatnot. And he is the prime person that have been frustrating the system for 18 years.
And meantime, one of his senior ministers in the last 23 years is saying to us, Dominica has been last for too long in this world.
Everything.
One of the things that Dominica is last in is in fixing its system of election, you know, subjecting it to reform for continuous improvement, right? And we have been behind in too many things. One of the key things in which we are behind, especially in the Caribbean region here, is voting with ID cards, cleaning our voters list, and so on. We're behind in those things. The confirmation is coming from your own team as part of your report card of the last 23 years. We have been last for too long in this world. in reforming our electoral process, and we have been behind in too many things connected to the electoral process and our responsibility to elect government of the people, by the people, for the people. We're behind. We're in the backwater of the world community where that is concerned. So, who's going to fix it? Now, what is in front of us, as people, is the responsibility to get what is right for the state of Dominica, and to prevent this gang in government from delaying and for derailing the process of electoral reform any further. They started back in 2008 when the commission decided it was going to clean the list and issue ID cards for voting. They call it madness going on at the commission, which would interfere with the re-election legacy of Ruth Skerritt, and they've succeeded for 15 years to keep it away. We are saying that cannot continue to happen, and we, the people, are going to stand. So we have a timetable now. End of June, Mr. Byron's report must be done and presented with the recommendations for amending the two pieces of election law that we have, the two election laws, the principal election laws in Dominica. The consultations must take place after that, and no later than the 31st of August, we must have the legislation enacted to give effect to the reforms. If that doesn't happen, Dominica is going to be a different place.
It has to. Let's just take some phone calls. At the beginning, you come in for 93095. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
You don't get it yet.
Okay, 4493095, 4493096, 4493097. Good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, my lady. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you doing?
Good evening.
Great. First of all, one must commend and congratulate this effort and rekindling of the push for electoral reform in Dominica, and what I think I would consider very successful rally last night. But you see, if you don't mind me saying, I think sometimes we afford the person who's holding the office of Prime Minister of Dominica with too much credibility. We anticipate too much honesty, and we are sometimes blindsided by the fact that this is not a gentleman who stands on principle or is willing to do the right thing at all. And I think in the expectation of electoral reform, should we expect the person who is so flawed of character and integrity and respect and honesty to provide us with anything regarding electoral reform? And I'm saying so because I don't think we'll get electoral reform in Dominica. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I don't think we're going to get it under the current circumstances. And we have to realize that someone who has a lot to hide, a government that is allegedly in bed with local and international criminals, an administration that has more than 1 million skeletons in their closet to hide and to mask, will not give up power just like that, will not surrender the reins of control and administration willy-nilly. And remember, any election to come under the platform of free and fair elections is going to undermine their quest to become rich at the public expense, is going to highly threaten and pull from under their feet the security that they hold now, which is allowing them to hide behind all the wrongdoing and seemingly crimes that they have committed. And so the question is, should we continue to expect electoral reform when we know fully well a government who fears losing power and a head of government who knows fully well that any absence of power is going to create a situation whereby they will be exposed? Should we continue to expect that? It's good to hear of a timeline, but I also think there needs to be some silent strategy to ensure that one way or the other, the people of Dominica get a free and fair election. And I want to say on that, the second point I'd like to make is this. I'm wondering, because it seems to be that there were supposedly foreign troops on Dominica's soil last night. I do not think the people of Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Barbados, Antigua, St. Kitts would tolerate any foreign troops on their soil had any citizens of this countries been protesting or thing. Never happened. I cannot recall any time the RSU had been to any other OECS country or Caribbean country when citizens were speaking or doing any actions for their rights and freedoms and liberties. And it seems to be becoming a habit in Dominica where the other governments of the OECS and the region tend to think that because Dominicans are so weak or will accept any piece of nonsense from this current regime, that they have to continue to override our freedoms, threaten us, and think that they can just send their goons and their platoons into Dominica to threaten people who are wanting to fight for their rights. I think something has to be done. To my mind, if the United States, for instance, is sponsoring the regional security system, some representation needs to be made to the United States to let them know that funding has to stop. Because the funding that they are providing for the regional security system, if at all they are doing it, is not in the interest of freedom and democracy. And I think we need to let these regional governments know that Dominica is not their doormat. Dominica is not their back door, okay? And Dominicans are not people whom they think that because at the beck and call of some insecure, infantile leader and cabinet, that they can just continue to beckon to the call to bring people into Dominica to suppress Dominicans. This has happened too often and this is happening too long, okay? And I think we need to look at that because the people of Dominica deserve the right to protest. In 1979, okay, the people of Dominica went on the streets because they felt that the government then was limiting their freedoms, and so they fought for democracy. It cannot happen that the person who's sitting in the office of president now, who was the architect of the overthrow of the government in 79, because is overseeing the erosion of rights of Dominicans. Okay, because 1979 now can not only be seen as a watershed in Dominica, it can be seen as the greatest smoke screen in the history of Dominica. And so I think we need to continue to let the world know that our rights and privileges in Dominica are being eroded, and we need to accept the reality now that we will not get free and fair elections under this government or under the current leader that we have in this country. And so something has to be done to ensure that the people of Dominica are free, number one, that we have free and fair elections, and that we I don't even think the time then of June, July, August might work, because it might be a demonstration of greater disrespect for the opposition, for the people of Dominica, and for freedom and democracy. And we need to see how we can send a message and educate the wider masses of Dominica that we need our free and fair elections.
Okay, thank you very much, caller, for your contribution. We truly appreciate that.
I want to go back a little bit to part of the conversation we were having earlier, because this matter of the regional security system, foreign troops on Dominican soil to police a public meeting, it outrages me. It outrages me because I don't believe that the gentleman who is responsible for national security and who would be the one making the request to the governments of the other countries to send in troops to assist and so on, has the moral authority to do anything of that nature, right? And I want to talk tonight about Rayburn Blackmore, because I'm sick and tired of this poor excuse for ministerial responsibility that we have in this man who. Hold on. Let me I'm getting a little upset, so I will play what I'm talking about.
Wait, I mean, Blackmore really know where you go for sure, and Blackmore bought the house. But you know,
Blackmore, Rayburn Blackmore, being spoken about there by his colleague Reginald Austri.
So it's why Blackmore died, he didn't deal it. He bought the house. But I mean, the victim, she tell him that is true. To me, long time it didn't interfere the girl because of how black man market him saying police and slip by the girl. Yeah, he tell black man send police there only in the hurricane season. Black man send police there 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So he told me, yes, you know the girl. No, the first one thing wasn't correct. But yes, you know black man beat up the girl out of face. Because of the fella, because he tell me because of his stick, black man beating her up. So I say, well, be careful because something in the making and you don't know. I told the pair, be careful, like something here. Well, the police have to investigate. And I'm sure they're going to question that. Well, she'll have to be a question, huh? So I don't know what the fuck she's going to say. Individual members of cabinet had particular views and expressed the disgust and the disappointment. And nothing black one with whoever put that story out. Everybody defending, all of us defending black one. Understand? All of us defending black one. So I agree with the investigation. Let's follow the source of the information. She'll kill herself. She'll be investigated too.
The National Security Minister is accused of battering a young lady. It is spoken about by his colleague minister. And his colleague minister presents information that something is going on because he has spoken to somebody who is directly involved with the young lady and is able to confirm that the lady was beaten, that police officers were deployed to the lady's home to guard, what is it? What's the term they use? To mako?
Medve.
What is going on at the lady's house and to make sure other people are not coming there. That is the security minister's concubine. He says that none of it is true. And he's going to investigate. He has the power of the state available to him to investigate, all the resources of the state to investigate. So he says to the people of Dominica that he's launched an investigation. He targets Trevor Johnson. They seize Trevor Johnson's laptop, his cell phone. They keep it for over a year. They're supposedly doing investigation. Years later, the public has heard absolutely nothing about these investigations, meaning that the Minister for National Security, who said he was going to clear his name, has not cleared his name. So the allegations stand as truth in his failure, because of his failure to clear his name, having all of the resources of the state available to him to have these investigations done. He has done nothing because he knows what will come out of it. In the meantime, the minister, his colleague minister, is confirming that the cabinet of ministers is supporting the batterer, the abuser of a young woman in their cabinet. They, the members of cabinet, are supporting him.
Defending him.
They're defending him. All of them are defending him. And you think that is a group of people that are interested in the happiness, the well-being, the safety and security of the people of Dominica? They don't love Dominicans. They love themselves. And all they're concerned about is themselves. So put this in perspective, people, and tell me whether somebody like that can be fit to be your Minister of National Security. The only reason he can be National Security Minister is because the cabinet of ministers is disrespectful of the authority of the people for the governance of the country, for the government of the country, for the exercise of government power and responsibility. It is the people that must authorize that. And the fact that they feel they don't need the authorization of people because they have hijacked the electoral process, they can do what they want. And so when you expected that in the reset, a minister like that, who had shown his colors, who was unable to conclude, to oversee the conclusion of investigations into allegations against him, he failed miserably. He is brought back in the reset in the same responsibility of National Security Minister. Danny Luge, make it make sense for me.
Because
Make
it make sense.
I'm coming.
good evening, welcome to the Workers' Voice. Hello. Let's take this. Hello, are you listening to us?
Right.
Good night, welcome to the Workers' Voice. Hello.
Hello, good night.
Good night, sir.
How are you?
Doing fine?
Am I live?
Yes, you're live. Go ahead if you're call.
Okay. I am very, very supportive of the last speaker because what is happening there, the Prime Minister or the Minister is leader of the government will never willing to give electoral reform because he wants to protect his name and he wants to keep stealing the election. And we, as we getting squeezed, we cannot sit down and accept what is going on with this government. I can tell you, we will not get electoral reform. We have to take it. We must take it. We have to get the people together. We have to lobby all over the country and get the people together. And if we have to block the road and take the election. We can't compromise with him. Mr. is a pig, he's a hag, he's the same, and he's not interested in the people, he's interested in himself. He feels he alone that must benefit. And the thing is, this regional security people in the Caribbean, he's using the money or resources to pay the leaders of those countries to send security forces to Dominica. And that we have to take action about that. This is too much. We cannot be like a scapegoat in Dominica in the region because Kerry is stealing the money from the country, selling our passport and paying everybody to do dirty work. And we're suffering. We as a people have to get together. We have to get together and we have to stop that. Because Mr. is not a human being. He's infested with the devil in his body. And the devil is telling him what to do. He's not natural. And the man will never accept anything unless we put the force on him. We have to put the pressure on that government and take what we need because he will not even give you the right thing in relation to the law. Right? Because I don't see why you have to employ a man to pay him $600,000. It's why we have people in them that can do the reform and get it done. Okay, it's done. It's done now, and still you have to dragging on our feet, right? Until you can give us a bogus election. We need other people, all Dominicans, to get together because it will only hit the opposition. You know. Some people in government will get the blows too, but we have to do it. We Dominicans have to do it. We have to unite against the devil because what we have there is a devil. He's not a human being.
Thank you very much, caller.
And you have to feed the devil. And for him to feed the devil, he has to kill us to feed the devil. So we have to stop it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution, caller. Numbers are 4493095, 4493096, 4493097. Overseas number 305-432-9624, 305-432-9624. You can WhatsApp at 265-4334. You're listening to the Workers' Voice. In studios with me is Mr. Lennox Linton, our president, Mrs. Francisca Joseph, our vice president, and Mr. Lugi, Danny Lugi from the Rosa North constituency. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Good evening, Dominica. Good evening, Spratt. Good evening, Phil, Mr. Linton.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Linton, I listened to Skerritt this afternoon, and I'm very disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
I hear him Skerritt saying campaign financing to him is not important. And to him, it's only Barbados he know that have a little campaign financing. At the same time, he telling you in America, they raised $1 billion between the two presidents. But in America, when they raise money, no matter whether you're president, any candidate, they make the total amount available for Americans to know how much money they raise. They will tell you how they raise their money, and they have a certain amount of money that people can contribute. They made their assets available. You have right to know their assets, what they own. So when I hear Scary talking those things that he's saying in Dominica, he's lying. The people in America know at the end of every election how much money was being raised by every candidate. In Dominica, nobody knows where Scary getting his money from, but he had the treasury in front of him. Nobody knows how many wealth that Scary has behind his name. So I am saying, when I listen to Scary saying that people suffering so bad in America that they have to go and live with other people. If somebody don't have documents, they don't enjoy such benefits. But if somebody in a crisis for a home in the United States, it has places you can go and they will find home for you and even pay 3/4 of your rent for you. So he cannot put himself in the place of America. He's lying to the people.
All right, thank you.
Meanwhile, he has access to the treasury. He is saying to the opposition they cannot have access to the treasury. And he's still saying to the opposition, we can go out and get money from China for our campaign. We can go out and get money from the Arabs for our campaign. We can go out and get money from Russia for our campaign. Because we know you don't have the ability to do it. You can't come to the treasury. We know you don't have the ability. So all what Kerry is doing, he's trying to confine the opposition in an area where he choked them in all ways.
Thank you very much, caller.
Financing is important. God bless Dominica. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Very good contribution. Good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Good evening, lady and gentlemen.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. Stellington, can you remember the day you interviewed that man from Vegas?
2000 after the election?
Amen. What did he tell you about campaign finance?
Yeah, we needed
how
it.
hard
We needed
and
it.
miserable it was for them not having money to
Right.
campaign.
Yep.
And he would like to see that happen for people that not in government and they're running for office to have money to campaign. And now he inside of it, he begging inside of it. It's good for him. Well, tell that man. At the end of August, I don't know before you, when Kaipul will quasi, as long as God give me life. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you much. Thank you very much for your contribution.
To make a point. In preparation for the May 31st meeting, we met with the High Command of the police force, and they were concerned that we should have a peaceful event. And we are concerned, as Dominicans, we are a peaceful people. But I am saying tonight, above the whole question of peace in Dominica, we need justice. We need justice. And it will not be business as usual with that con man for more than 15 years. Right? Blue talk about the interview he did with Mr. Linton. He was concerned then about campaign finance.
23 years ago.
23 years ago. 23 years later, all you're trying to do is to use local force and regional force to stifle people, and you expect people to stay peaceful. In that pressure cooker can only take so much, After a while, it will decalate the lid. So, yes, I'm a peaceful person. We are a peaceful party. But we need some justice in this land.
Well,
we need some justice in this land.
Be clear on the point that there cannot be any peace without justice. Cannot be. And this denial of electoral reform, this hijacking of our system of election in Dominica by the Roosevelt-Skerritt administration is intolerable, it is unjust, and it has gone on for too long. And that injustice is impacting the peace of Dominica.
Hello, good night. Welcome to the Workers' Voice. Hello.
Yeah, good night.
Yes, good night.
Good night to everyone.
Good
Yeah.
night. Good night.
Speak up, please. Speak up, please.
Do you think that the government leaders in the regional countries would send security forces to Dominica if they not get paid? Security is using our passport money to pay those leaders in the region to send regional forces into Dominica. That's what he's doing. Everything he's doing, he's not probably using our region, our money to destroy us.
Okay, thank you very much, caller. Yeah.
Please don't cut me off. That's
Sorry,
not
sorry,
finished.
sorry. I forgive you.
Because you see, this no government gonna send their forces to a country like this. Because every one of them have electoral reform. We have electoral reform. But you're sending forces to disrupt our election. You send forces to shoot people in Salisbury. Now you're going to send Salisbury to disturb people doing the usual thing to get what they need in our country. And because of that, the security forces are going to come to Dominica where they get paid, and the government of those countries are going to send their forces to Dominica without they get paid as well. So the leaders of those other countries are getting paid to come to destroy our country, to destroy our legal process, to destroy our process to be done properly. And because they must pay the leaders and they must pay the forces.
All right. Thank you very much, caller, for your contribution. Good night. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I hope last night wasn't the only night. I think the fire should keep burning. We should keep going to the different villages and so. So when Blackmore staying and talk with his brain there, we have to do something and make sure we're on track. We need to go to the different villages and keep the fire burning and let the people know that we're still on. And when we keep our date, we are serious about our date.
Okay.
Our set time, because in Sherry set his time, he keep running away from his time and to try and play smart. We need to skip our time set and do what we have to do to make our country a better place in this life.
Thank you very much, caller.
So whenever you're available, I'm available again for the vehicle to roll.
All right.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thanks, bro. Thanks.
God bless.
All right.
Hello, good night. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Yes, good night, gentlemen.
Good night, sir.
So the lady is there with all you.
Yes, good night, sir.
Yeah, I called to just say how much I felt yesterday, real good. And I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not being hypocritical. I felt so good one time. I called one of the fighters that fighting for Dominica in America. I felt like I could cry because I knew what we were faced with yesterday. When I watched the crowd, I didn't want no food, nothing. I felt good. Now, a caller called earlier, right? And he said that he do not have the confidence that we will get the electoral reform, proper electoral reform under this present regime. And I agree with him because Mr. Lincoln, I want you to make a note of that, When they had the little meeting in Roseau and people going to do their stupidness and they say, you're going to overthrow the government with a truck. The Prime Minister was giving a speech a day or two later, and he called our democracy, our so-called democracy. And the guy in Granby, who represents Granby now, after the by-election, he stated that Dominica do not need electoral reform. So these guys, when they talk about electoral reform, I know they do not want it because the email, the nasty, stinking email of 2008. That's all we should tell people about the most is the nasty email that caused us to be in this situation as we speak tonight. So they do not have any interest about electoral reform. So I'm going to encourage all Dominicans, the same way they get together yesterday, all of us get together yesterday, let's keep the fire burning. When the time comes, or should just stop them and say, listen, if you are not giving us electoral reform, we're going to take it for ourselves. Good night, guys.
Thank you very much for your contribution, sir. Good night. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Blessings to you all in the interest of time.
Blessings, my brother.
Blessings.
And a special one to the lady.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Blessings.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Linton dropped something, and it used to be frequently pronounced, if I may say, a criminal enterprise. And I love when I use my own, over 10 years now or more, these honorable criminals. That's what they are. Cluster of kleptomaniacs, a cluster of thieves and criminals have hijacked this country. And people want me to be mild-mannered, polite, and respectful to these criminals. Oh, blessings, you must tone down. Tone down what? I'm not loud. I mean, I have my health to try to protect. So I just, trying to keep my sanity. I hardly call programs in the night, is in the day alone I fight, All right? I do like fighting.
But Hector,
all right. Thank you very much for your call.
No, just quickly, listen, my conclusion. You there with me, gentlemen? I'm still on?
Yes, we are there with you, yes.
I am saying I understand the fight is going to take a life of its own because there is that collective commonality, poverty, unemployment, crime, and violence, which these criminals that claim to be minister of national, minister of everything, they're not paying priority to because it's a perfect deflection from their criminal activities, people killing each other, people worry about security and all of that. So really and truly, gentlemen, you all need to be commended, even if sometimes I get frustrated and I shoot up my mouth and say all what I want. But you all need to be commended because if all you were like half of these criminals, Dominica would have already burned. Blessings.
Blessings, my brother. Thank you very much for your contribution. Good night. Welcome to the Workers' Voice. The calls are coming in fast and furious. Good night. Welcome to the Workers' Voice, overseas line. Hello, good night. Are you listening?
Next.
Good night. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Have you ever battered your wife before?
Good night. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Good night, gentlemen. Good night. There's boots on the ground.
Yes, good night. Welcome.
Boots on the ground.
Yes, yes.
At an appropriate time.
Yes.
And hold on before the caller goes.
Yeah.
At an appropriate time, whenever she feels like it, she doesn't need to. There's no rush. My wife will address that question.
Even question about.
Go ahead. Yes. Yeah, go ahead. And it's time is short and don't be too long. All right.
Even question to do with the gentleman's wife coming into electoral reform. Gentlemen, I listened to the Prime Minister, Roosevelt Skerrit, and I want Roosevelt Skerrit to understand we're not going for electoral modernization. We're going for electoral reform, an international standard for elections to be renewed and reorganized to suit the people. So what I see, the leaders of this organization have set some dates that they going to have how to say that now? They have set some dates that they're going to await for before they can decide what the people are going to do. What I am saying to you guys now, after listening to the Prime Minister, we need to set up another event. And the event going to be electoral reform warm-up. Because people in Dominica have to jump up when electoral reform pass. And I noticed that government doesn't want to give us electoral reform. So we have to set up some electoral reform warm-up. And we can either do it in the town or do it in the outskirts in different areas. But we have to get the people together and get people to be in electoral reform warm-up. Because we need and we want and we have to get electoral reform. We are not going anywhere different. So right now, I think what the man say is for us to warm up our people, not just to wait on the dates we call in there. We have to let them know that we are in a warm-up stage. We want electoral reform.
Thank you very much, caller.
Good night. Our boots on the ground.
All right. God bless you. Thank you for calling in. Hello, good night. Welcome to the Workers' Voice on the overseas line.
Yes, sir. Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Gentlemen on the panel.
Yeah.
Bad,
Yeah, good night.
Barry Martin.
How are you doing, my brother?
Condolences to the family of your community.
All right. Thank you very much.
Accident early on. Just hold strongly support. Mr. Linton, everything on your side?
Everything is always everything, bro. Everything good?
Okay. Well, you know, you're taking a rough life easy in Chirac.
All right.
In Chirac, there's this one, take one. When they ask you for your address, you're living on the intersection of if it's Hollywood and Dock. Now, Mr. Linton, I want to send all you on a different tangent tonight there because I'm not hearing a conversation to do with that. That's just my theory, and it's worrying me because it's a silent disaster waiting to happen. Now, that has to do with electoral reform. Now, one question: who's paying Mr. Byron? Mr. Skerritt, right? And Mr. Byron gets a deposit. When his work is completed, he gets the other half. Am I right?
Sorry.
I really don't know. I really don't know. I mean, for all you know, he could have been paid all his money up front. I don't know. I don't know what the arrangement is.
Okay. Whatever the arrangement is, nobody pays a whole contract before the results in this 2023. People don't do that again. Now, Mr.
Well, nobody hands out $1 billion contract for a public sector project without tender, but we do it in Dominica.
Well, you know, that's on remote control by itself. I not even go in there. But Mr. Linton, let me tell you something. Listen to me carefully tonight. You are going to get, Dominicans going to get reform. Are you going to get it? Now, people figure there's that long delay while it's not forthcoming, so they figure, okay, no reform coming, ABC. What I feel is causing the delay, Mr. Skerritt gets excited when he has a way around something. And he gives a clue in his utterances from time to time. Mr. Linton and the panel and Dominicans, pay attention to the word modernization. You see that word there, Mr. Linton? All what that voter ID card and all clean a voter list, you're going to get all that, you know. Where he's having a difficulty, it is my opinion that he's having a difficulty strategizing the modernization of reform in terms of voting that put him in the best advantage ever. That is what I feel is taking time to put together in a reasonable fashion with Mr. Byron recommendation. He on the consultation between he and Mr. Byron in the past, I feel that was tabled. Now remember, it's he that paid Mr. Byron. So at the end of the day, Mr. Byron subjected to give him a certain way too. I don't care what somebody said, that is business. Who feed the piper is their plenitude. That's what I believe. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So Mr. Linton, I want you all to pay attention. Now, in the word modernization, when you dissect modernization, you're talking about absentee ballots, voting from international domains electronically. I am not hearing any legitimate, logical recommendation by the opposition forces in terms of a way to go about that still gives an even playing field to all contenders. That is what is important. Now, I will tell you why it is important. I believe, it is my opinion.
Hold on, caller. Don't forget, we almost lost for time. Close. So just try to wind up first, please. Thank you very, very much. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is that we whatever platform is put forward internationally, you all must have a hand on that platform too. So it is wise to come up with a concept from your position and promote it, develop a concept how it can be done justifiably before he put one down on the table and you're trying to react to it. And that is where he's going to get the edge over you all, especially to the CBI citizens. That list is in the domain
all the intelligence to the CBI citizens is only in theory. It is not across the board reached by the opposition forces or anybody else. So you all have to pay attention to that, because if modernization takes place that way, there's no way no other party can never win election in Dominica. And I think that's where he's heading.
Thank you very much, caller.
International-minded man.
All right. Thank you for your input. It's almost time, 3 minutes to the hour, and we are beginning to wind up here our program here, and as we focus on electoral or activity yesterday, electoral reform going forward. We're hearing a lot of information coming in, feedback coming in about having more activities, more regular and whatnot, and keeping the pressure on. And as time goes by, I know we'll be in the planning session. We have to do a post-mortem on the activity and how we go forward. So I am sure very soon we'll get more information on what type of action will be taken, and to ensure that in the 3 months we keep the fire burning and moving in the right direction. Gentlemen, lady, Mr. Linton, you were going to say something, or Mrs. Joseph, you want to go ahead?
Earlier on, I mean, we're speaking to campaign financing. I was saying, the people is the poverty that has been meted out to our people throughout the years, and every election cycle, you a year or 6 months before the due date for election, or whatever time you call it, you go to our communities and you pour monies, right? There is a gentleman who's had for the past 4 election cycles still waiting to build his house, because every election cycle he gets stones, gravel, then he gets sand, then he never gets anything to build his house. So you have a set of people in a perpetual state of poverty. I mean, how right is it that the people who pay you a salary, that you go and you distribute their own resource, their own monies that you have stashed somewhere. You sell our citizenship. You sell what is ours, that is meant for us. Now you turn around and you take it and you tell people that it's coming out of your pocket. And you give them $200 and you tell them to vote for me. Or you let them hold a 200 and tell them, when you go to the polls, take a picture of your ballot paper. Bring it for me, let me see. You really voted. And another thing, Hector, we have to continue telling our people, they cannot know who you vote for.
All right.
Right? They cannot know who you vote for.
It's a good ballot.
Sorry. So don't be afraid. That's why they ask you to take a picture, because they cannot know. So they frighten you. You have a house, an apartment. If you don't vote, we'll take it.
You're an NEP?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's also a sad situation. Mr. Loge?
Well, let me say it was good to be in studio tonight. We appreciate most of the callers, except one who on a regular basis tries to detract or put our program off track. A former police officer. Anyway, I'll leave it as that. It can't be business as usual anymore. We have to step it up. Yes, we are peaceful people, but we are calling for electoral justice in this land, and nothing can stop it. If history is a good lesson, look at other dictators who are forcing themselves, on a people for an extended period. Their end was not a good one. I am not calling for war. I am calling for revolution in Dominica. I'm not calling for war, but it's a natural thing. Once people are suppressed for that long, then at the end, the result will be one of a rapid revolution. Good night, Dominica.
Good night, Mr. Lugie. Mr. Linton.
On the matter of campaign finance reform, which we expect is going to be covered in the phase 2 report of the consultant, Sir Dennis Byron. I heard some comments today from the Prime Minister, which pushed me in the direction of thinking that there must be something that can be done, when public officials, people sitting in the government of a country, can so deliberately and mischievously mislead the public and poison the public mind on important matters. Here was a prime minister, today, a man who sits in the office of prime minister, telling the people that campaign finance reform means that the treasury, the taxpayers are going to have to finance political campaigns. I have never heard more arrant nonsense in my life. He tells the people that that's what it's going to mean. So if you now have to take $10 million a year to share between political parties, which program, essential program, is going to suffer? Is it the Yes We Care, or is it? So let me just say, and listen to me carefully, Dominic. Campaign finance reform has absolutely nothing to do with the public purse financing political parties. If there's a thinking in the country that should be done, then that can be done. But it doesn't mean that because you're being asked to account for the funds that you raise for a campaign, that the public is going to have to fund you instead. Did you all listen to this foolishness?
I didn't have the time to do that.
We didn't have the time to listen to it.
That's right.
And he's there now. You know why he's doing that? Because he knows that he has all the passport money from Dominica available to him, because he's holding significant portions of it outside and treating it and having foreigners treat it like their own ATM. Billions of dollars, no problem at all to finance a Labour Party campaign. You have passport sellers who will make their contributions.
Wow.
And you have the passport agents who have control of the funds belonging to Dominica in overseas bank accounts, who will take from that money and help to finance.
But Mr. Linton, I also saw it on
the Labour Party campaign.
I also see it on the flip side as well. Scary was what happened yesterday. He was in fear. So Scary maybe trying to show people, well, I still have the money, I can still buy a few of you. I think it was Scary was responding to what happened yesterday.
What I'm saying,
I have never heard Scary having a press conference on thing, on a first day,
What I'm saying, Hector, is that this is a man who has total control of Dominica's passport money. He has given it to his friends to hold overseas and to do what they want with, right? And those friends are financing the Labour Party campaign with our passport money. And the ambassadors of shame and disgrace over the years have been sending money as well. Ali Reza Monfared, on the record, he was sending money to Emmanuel Nanton's gas station for the campaign, and he was paying for the paraphernalia, etc., etc. And all of that we now know to be proceeds of crime, because Ali Reza Monfared is in jail for 20 years for embezzling billions of dollars from the state of Iran. So when you put all of that together, and this man comes to tell you the foolishness, so he wants to scare away people from campaign finance reform, because he's telling them it is your money now in the taxpayers that is going to have to pay for their campaigns, when he knows right now he has all of the passport money available to him, so he can spend any amount of millions he wants on a campaign. He can bring any amount of thousands of people that he wants from overseas to come home to vote and to corrupt the election and to hijack and to rig the process and to steal the election. So when you consider all that, people of Dominica, you come back to the compelling logic of taking your electoral process out of the hands of these rogues. This gang that has installed itself as government and is serving foreign interest over Dominicans, leaving us with the responsibility to make our country first again, to let our people be first in our country, to rescue our country, to reset our economy, and to rebuild the best Dominica, to build our country into the best Dominica for all of Dominicans. That is what this is all about. That is what the next few months in particular is going to be about, as we go about the business, first and foremost, of ensuring electoral reform no later than the 31st of August, 2023.
Yes, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen and lady, for being here introduced with me. I am sure that our followers, even on Q95 FM radio on Facebook, I seen a long discussion going on there on Facebook. So we will.
Somebody was asking earlier, and I saw a note. Somebody was asking earlier whether I am saying that the Dennis Byron recommendation should just be taken to Parliament. I've never said that.
Yeah.
I did not say that. I have never said that.
I've
always said, once the recommendations are in, there should be consultation, there should be stakeholder consultations, there should be feedback, and the public assessment and concern with the report should influence what the government finally takes to Parliament.
Good evening to Maury in Alaska. I see you busy on the Facebook chat there with us as well. Everybody, Catherine, George, Mali, Austria, and all the others contributing on the Facebook chat.
That is up.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for joining us. In the words of Singing Sandy, it is time to take back control. Dominica, it is time to take back control. I want to wish you a safe weekend, a very good weekend. As I always say, find a place of worship on the weekend. We thank God for the week and also thank Him. Ask Him to guide you during the coming week. Just want to wish you all the best. As I said earlier on, it's hurricane season. Be prepared, be prepared. Repo Man, how are you doing? Ma'am, all of you there in Salisbury, where are you doing? Mr. Orville, I know you're doing, you're listening tonight. T, good night to you. All of you in Colby Street, Monrachet, listening, Mr. Winson. I saw my good friend earlier on today on the phone, Mr. Morrison Joyce. Good evening to you. All of you, just have a wonderful weekend as we say good night to you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
The Soviet Union is a degenerated worker state or a state capitalist. Yet our houses are on fire. The streets are not safe. The police are not leaving us alone. What are we doing? So we said our first priority must be to sort our own house out.
You're listening to Outlook on the BBC World Service with me, Mubin Azar. If you heard part one of this story yesterday, and if you didn't, just search for Bradford 12 on our website, you'll know Tariq was talking about growing up as a Pakistani teenager in